Hello there, welcome along. This is Business Connections Live. It is program number 41. Steve Hyland with you here, and it's great to have your company as always tonight. Now, our guest tonight is Tim Bodill. He is from Phoenix IT, and he's going to be talking about how better adoption of the cloud enables SMEs to free up real estate, skills to focus on their core businesses, and it really is about making certain that you get the maximum return when it comes to using the technology that you're using in business on a daily basis. Tim, great to have you with us today. So let's just talk a little bit about Phoenix IT before we go any further on this.
Okay.
Who are Phoenix IT and who are you?
Okay, so I'm the sales director of a division within Phoenix. Phoenix is an IT services provider, an infrastructure services provider. It's a UK-based business. We have been providing computing services for a variety of customers, from small to very large, for about 40 years now, the length and breadth of Great Britain. But we are a UK-focused organisation.
Now, what we're going to be talking about tonight, we've had one of your colleagues on the programme a few weeks back, but what we're going to be talking about tonight is not so much disaster recovery as what we know Phoenix for, but we're talking about really a back-end electronic system to actually move your office from the real workplace to a virtual workplace. I would imagine in the old days, what we're really talking about is you would have a laptop or a PC on your desk, and that would be connected to a server downstairs in the basement, and all your files and everything like that, your email, would all be residing on your server in your basement.
That's right.
And then one day, your basement gets flooded, and you've lost all your emails and all your backup. But today, technology has brought us a new solution, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's so many advances in technology, as always, on an ongoing basis, that now you don't need to have all of those worries. You don't need to have any people or skills on site. You don't need to have any real estate that worries you. You don't need to have any equipment on site. All of the standard services that you need from computing can be delivered from a remote data centre. You don't need to know where it is. And I think that people are now getting more and more used to the idea because of the fact that we all carry around devices that are already accessing the cloud. They're already accessing data that they don't really know where it is. And so there's definitely a lot more that can be achieved just because of the advances in technology.
Do you think people really get the cloud at the moment? Is it a bit of a tough sell? I know that you're in sales, your background's technology though, but is it a bit of a tough sale when it comes to describing what the cloud is all about?
I think the problem is in IT, like we're very good over so many years. What we've done is we've managed to create lots of jargon, and there's lots of different definitions of what the cloud is. In reality, what the cloud means, or what the cloud delivers, is the ability for technology to be delivered remotely from remote locations, from data centres, without you having to worry about where they are. It's really enabling smaller businesses to access the same level of compute power that a large business has been used to for some time. Larger organisations have been delivering technology out of their own data centres for many years. With the cloud, we can now deliver the same level of compute power for a much smaller business, but at an affordable price.
For those that are a bit thick, or the slower thinking, that'll be me then, and thick, I get both marks on that. What we're talking about then is that we're taking our server of old away and we're putting it somewhere that you look after.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've had systems like that for a number of years now, haven't we? What's been the big hold-up? Why didn't we have... I mean, when I go back to my old office days, we used to have maybe there would be a PC, and it'd be a dumb PC sitting in your office, and there'd be a server in the building. Is there a difference between what we're doing now with this kind of technology?
I think one of the biggest enablers, without question, is the speed at which internet connectivity, or broadband, as most people will know it, has advanced in the last few years. And not only the speed, but the reliability and the price of that has improved dramatically over the last few years. And that's really what makes the difference. So you can now afford to have a very high-speed connection into your business, which enables these services to be delivered remotely, rather than having to have everything local, as you described earlier. And that's probably the key difference. But I think also there's a number of changes in the way that technology is being delivered. So the way that applications are delivered now, so your email and your word processor and your spreadsheet, you don't have to have them running on your local device. They can be running in a server that's in a data center the other side of the world, for all you know. But that because of the speed of the connection and because of the technology that's driving those applications, it really doesn't matter, and you don't need to know where they are.
I mean, I can see the upsides on all of this because it means your data is remote, and I would take it, in your particular case, the data is always backed up as well, for that matter.
Of course, yeah. I mean, one of the benefits of our service, but of course, there's lots of people out there providing cloud services, but we have UK-based data centres, and what we would always do is we'd always provide a level of resiliency in terms of having your data stored in at least 2 locations, so that, again, you don't need to worry about where it is, or you don't need to worry about whether it's safe, because if we have a problem, there will be a backup for it.
There's always this feeling, I mean, if I've got a server, albeit one that may get flooded, sitting down in my basement, I always, there is that feeling that you've got the security of it, because the security is yours. You know, you put your security system into your building, all your data is there, your customer information is there, your emails are there, your contact information is all there. How do you make absolutely certain then that if I'm sending up and down telephone wires, and we hear horror stories about people who are using their laptops in airports where the data has been stolen, but is there what is the security that we've got then on a remote server where it's going up and down our fibre optic link back to you?
Yeah, so you'll have to forgive me now, Steve, because I think you and I are both old enough to remember that these problems have existed for some time with communications in computers. The fact is that nowadays there's so much more that you can do to protect yourself against that kind of challenge, against that kind of security risk. And what we're offering and what the cloud offers is for a small business or indeed an individual to take advantage of very expensive, very sophisticated security measures, but on a shared basis. You only pay for the bit of it that you're using. So you're effectively having the same kind of privileges, the same kind of protection that a large multinational organisation would expect and would pay for, but you're able to buy a little slice of it. And that's really what the cloud is all about. It's about delivering you very sophisticated, very powerful computing, but on just the bit that you want to pay for, on almost a pay-as-you-go basis.
So who is this targeted at then? Because you know, you hear adverts. I know there's not only yourselves that are in it, but it seems like, having read the spec and everything from your business, this is Phoenix CloudSure UK. Having looked at the spec of your business and what you can do and what you're providing, I mean, it seems to be a top-flight product. But this is a market that is emerging, isn't it? It's a bit of a gold rush at the moment for this kind of facility for customers.
It is, and I think it's something that you said right at the start is really what's key, that what we're providing is a service out of our data centres that are world-class data centres, you know, like many other players are. But it's available now because of the changes in technology, because of the reduction in price and availability of high-speed connections. It's available to everybody, and that's really the difference. It can be made available to a small business who may be doing something completely different. It may have no technology skills or experience whatsoever, and quite rightly want to focus on their core activity. But because of the changes that we've talked about, this kind of technology is now available to them.
You are up against it though, aren't you, when it comes to defining or differentiating yourself from what other offerings are out there? For instance, we talk about sometimes Microsoft are out there, of course, and you can now get Office 365, so you've got them sitting out there. A lot of the manufacturers or the software developers are now turning to the very model of having some form of a cloud-based service. We use Adobe here for things like editing and effects and all the rest of it. Adobe, a cloud-based service. Adobe, we would imagine, is one of the mainstream developers of software out there. They had an outage a couple of weeks back, and so did Microsoft for that matter. So we're talking about big players here. How do I protect myself against that?
Well, they may well have had outages, but the fact is, of course, that the impact of that was actually very minimal for most people that were using those services. And that's really the point, that because of the technology, because of the security, because of the level of resilience that's built into these environments, whilst there may be outages, their impact is usually very minimal. So you're right to say, yes, of course, these companies have outages and they make headlines as well, of course, because
absolutely,
because a lot of people are aware of it.
Yeah.
But the fact is that the impact is much more manageable and is much more much less of an impact on the business, much less likely to impact your day-to-day operations of your business, because there is resilience and there will be a backup and it will be online again very quickly. And I think it's that you're really buying into. Instead of having your own server in your own basement, if your own server goes down, who knows how long it could take before you get that back up and running? Who knows how long it could take before you get your data recovered? With a cloud-based service, you're much more likely to have everything back and up and running and in order within a matter of hours rather than a matter of days or weeks as you could have if it was your own.
It's a fascinating area, isn't it? I mean, if you are thinking about doing this at the moment, and you maybe heard ads on the radio, depending on where you are in the country, but it is an interesting way, and it does seem to be a way that a lot of businesses are now actually developing their IT. For many, many years, large companies, medium-scale companies, SMEs would have an IT team that would be sitting there looking after the service. And of course, you've got to go through, and we're going to find out more about this in just a moment, but you'd have to go through the whole process of hardware upgrade. You've got to make certain that your licenses are up to date for the software that you're using. And what do you use? I mean, there are some organisations that we deal with who have a massive IT back-end structure. And in fact, it nearly becomes impossible. Hence the reason we were talking a little bit about security. We'll come back to that, because if you want to protect yourselves when it comes to making certain that people coming in with those emails, that you are secure, what kind of protection do you get if you're putting it out to a third party to provide your IT support, to provide your back-end IT structure? And what does the structure in your premises look like? What are the things that you've got to consider? Are you still very much duplicating what you have now? Do you have a number of desktops and a real infrastructure of cables and wiring and modems and switches? Do you still need to have all of that while the server is the only thing that you've got rid of and it's somewhere else? Okay, you've got the security then of a server that if anything should happen to your premises, you can get back into business quickly. But do you still have to have that infrastructure in your office to make sure that you can still maintain your business? It's a question we're going to ask him in a moment. I can see him going pale already. That's still to come in just a few moments' time. I know he's got all the answers to it, actually. Now, last week on the program, we had Steve Mills. He was on the show. If you're into LinkedIn, if you've been using LinkedIn, one of the most popular programs that we've actually got on our YouTube channel, actually on our website, is the program where we looked at the development of LinkedIn, how LinkedIn is moving forward. Now, there's been a number of upgrades, a number of improvements to LinkedIn over the last couple of months, and Steve Mills came into the studio to discuss some of those different things. So to find out more, here's Steve Mills looking back on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. On the show tonight, my guest is Steve Mills. Now, Steve has been on the show twice before. He's back again. We're going to be discussing all things LinkedIn. There's been a lot of changes on LinkedIn over the past couple of months, and it really does, particularly if you're a business. I think LinkedIn has changed if you've got business pages and things like that. But the power of LinkedIn is truly second to none.
I think all these sites are fantastic, and I would say that LinkedIn's probably better from a business-to-business point of view. If I was more business-to-consumer based, maybe I'd be looking at something more like Facebook as the key, but all these sites have got their place. All of them work fantastically well. We all know, you know, Facebook's a fantastic site for business, and LinkedIn is also sometimes called actually the Facebook for business. Mm-hmm. The one big thing that you can do right now that you couldn't do literally at the beginning of May is you can add articles to your profile. Just look at this stat here. This is really powerful. This shows that this particular article has been shared by 479 different people. Well, the big one, which I actually thought was not such a great thing, was the removal of the product and service pages. Because when I had a company page, I could also upload product pages. So I could have 10, 15, 20, an infinite number of pages all marketing my products. They've changed that. They've removed it completely. And what they've come up with now is something they called showcase pages. If you're new to LinkedIn and you've got 20 connections and you're not really using it very much right now, there are a whole range of things that you can do to move your business up that sort of ladder on LinkedIn before you need to go and pay LinkedIn some money. So I've set my advert up, I've uploaded an image, I've gone into added a headline and some great text here. So my ad looks something like this here on the right hand side. I then go in here, and this is the big difference between this and Google. On Google, it's a matter of somebody's typed something into Google, they're looking for something, and your advert pops up because you've got keywords in here. On LinkedIn and indeed on Facebook, this works the opposite way around. You're looking for them. So this is profile driven rather than tag driven. But I can then target people by job title. So if I sell HR services or marketing or recruitment or whatever it is, I can target people by that. Or, again, I can target people by category, by job function. So here, rather than just going into the top and type in, you know, I'm looking for accountants in London, I can be much more sort of segregated. So I can here search on a particular industry, for example, or I can search a company, and so on and so forth. And then you scroll down to your summary, this area here. Oops, sorry. Let's just go back to this area here and then click on the edit button. Hey presto, on the right hand side, LinkedIn now tell you these are the words that you need to add in order to optimize your profile and to get found on LinkedIn. Okay, so the number one thing I would suggest that you do on LinkedIn is to be consistent. You need to use it on an ongoing basis. Number two, I would say, go and get some training. Make sure that you understand fully what you need to do on LinkedIn and all the different opportunities that there are. Most of the people I meet use 2 or 3 different ways. On my training programs, I teach over 40 different strategies for growing your business on LinkedIn. The last comment I'd make would be to utilize groups. Groups are an awesome opportunity. If you want a way of getting a message out free of charge to thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of people, you can do that for free on LinkedIn groups. Thanks for listening.
Steve Mills, absolutely fantastic, very, very smart guy, really does get the ins and outs. He was telling us once before, he uses groups a lot. If you've never used groups on LinkedIn, then you're really missing a bit of a trick there, quite frankly. And he was telling us that when he comes on the program, he will send out a single email and it goes out to all his groups. Now, when you send out your emails and you're promoting something, how many people does it go to? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Is it 2,000? You've got a big mailing list. Is it 5,000? By using groups intelligently, you get the same kind of response back. I think it was something in the order of 1.7 million people. Now, that's just using groups. It's a clever way. And the fact, if you watch the entire program, he'll show you how you can target people. It's different as well from using, should we say, the likes of AdWords. You can target people down to their business, to their position in what they do. In fact, it's nearly the reverse of AdWords, where AdWords gets you a large audience. What LinkedIn is doing with the way they do the searches, using groups and the different things that are on there, their search feature, it's more specific. So you get a more narrow approach to the people that you're actually chasing after. It's a very clever system. Steve also does training courses on LinkedIn as well. And if you want details, just simply go to the page and you'll find out more about the courses he runs. Fascinating bloke. Love the guy dearly. He's going to be coming back on the program in the near future and telling us some more of the secrets of LinkedIn and some of the other ways that you can maximize your marketing when it comes to getting your business running smoothly and successfully. And that's really what we're talking about tonight, is making certain that your business runs smoothly and successfully when it comes to your IT infrastructure. Now, the question I posed a moment or so ago was, when you do have one of these systems where we're using the telephone wires and we're using a remote server somewhere, which you assure me now is secure, that no one's going to be able to hack into and no one's going to be able to see that information. What about the infrastructure that is left in my office? What do I need to successfully use this system, and what kind of support do I get for the systems that I've got left? Do I just throw it all away and start again?
Well, as you say, there's a lot of different variants of cloud provision. There's a lot of different organisations providing their version of cloud out there. Our CloudSure UK product and a lot of the typical providers aim to provide a full end-to-end service over the internet connectivity. So you have a connection into our data centre, and over that we'll provide you with email services, standard Office applications, your word processor, your spreadsheet, your communications, so your telephone service and any messaging service that you might have as well, which of course can be very sophisticated now and include video. And maybe your line of business application. You mentioned that you use Adobe here, so we will provide an environment on which to load your application in our data center. So there's no need for any technology, any real estate, anything, any storage of equipment on your site other than the devices that you want your users to access those services with. And that could be a laptop, it could be a tablet device, a mobile phone, or a smartphone device. But usually the legacy equipment that you've got, the laptops that you've got, the desktops that you've got in your business are going to be perfectly adequate for you to access those services on. So that's what we do.
So what have I got in my office then from you? I mean, if I've got the remote server, is all I've got here a keyboard and screen effectively?
Pretty much so, yeah. There's
so
no
the
need.
Power is at the other end of the wire?
Well, the power is absolutely, yeah. The electricity is local, of course, but the power behind the computing is in our data center. The internet connectivity, or the connectivity of your machine, the local area network, isn't really necessary anymore. We can provide a fully managed wireless network that we can manage remotely from our data center in your premises. So we can add and remove users, we can monitor the content, and we can provide the security on your wireless network entirely from our data center. And we can monitor what's going on there from our network operations centers as well. So really all you need is to come along with your laptop or your tablet device, yeah.
Is there any particular applications that it's not suitable for? I mean, for instance, once again, we're talking about that we do a lot of video. Obviously, we do a lot of video editing here, and we do a lot of compositing. So what we've got are huge files that we're moving around internally. Our backup storage that we've got here at the moment is 20, 30 terabit. So a huge amount of storage capacity needed if we were to move that off-site. If you're moving those kind of files, or you're working on those kind of files, is that still a satisfactory solution to be using a remote server?
In a word, no. Where you've got very, very high graphic requirements, very high data requirements, no, we can still provide a lot of the services out of the cloud, out of the data centers, for sure. But where you've got data-intensive applications, so computer-aided design, for example, or video as you're using here, then
would you still host the program?
We can still host, yeah, the application for sure. But in some instances, in particular with video and with computer-aided design, are the two examples that we've given, you do need to have a higher degree of local power, of compute power locally. So you certainly wouldn't be looking at running an application, an intensive video application on your laptop that was being run out of a data center.
And I think that's really important, because that gives absolute clarity then. So what we're talking about here is database management, emails, word processing. As you said, the telephony as well can also be serviced by yourself as well. And what you're getting here is you're getting the core business needs supplied and supported. How much support then do you actually give to the infrastructure in the office? You're saying you can turn up with a laptop, and that becomes the screen and the keyboard to this very powerful server. But what about there must be some form of infrastructure. For instance, if I've got a wireless network, what about that wireless network? Who sorts that out for me?
So the engagement that we'd have in the first place is that we'd clearly come along to the premises and make sure that there was adequate wireless coverage, and there would be a local device, you know, a wireless access point, which is just a box on the wall, or maybe several of them, depending on the size of the premises. But really, that's about it. You know,
do you ever walk away and go, we've been to your site, we've done a site survey, thank you very much indeed, but quite frankly, No.
It's possible, yeah. You know,
Because I'm thinking about the telephony side, because do I need, as a business owner, do I need fibre to be coming to my building, or is just ordinary telephone wires?
Clearly, the applications that you're going to be using on your site, the more applications you use, the higher the bandwidth we want, the higher the bandwidth we're going to be using. But there are lots of options around the type of connection that you can have into your building. All of the telecommunications businesses are coming up with some very innovative products that really make it very competitive and very affordable and accessible for even the smallest of businesses. And actually, the kind of speed that you can access on just something like a fibre internet connection would be more than enough to run all of your standard applications, the email and the office applications that you talked about. And in fairness, the vast majority of line of business applications, it's only the very data intensive ones where you'd be looking at having local compute power as well.
But let's face it, at the end of the day, most businesses are operating around word processing and email, aren't they?
The vast majority of companies that we talk to use email, use a word processor and use spreadsheets, and they maybe have an application such as Sage or one of the Microsoft Dynamics applications as a line of business finance application. All of those things will be serviced very easily over a relatively low speed internet connection.
Now, if you are looking at we'll call them, for want of a better expression, the basic office applications, there's always this fear that, and you often see, you know, is it going to be licensed? How do I sort out my licenses? And the bigger you get, the more cumbersome the license management becomes.
Yeah.
And you start to actually fear that, should I use that piece of software? Has it dropped out of license? Can I use it? Or what's worse still is you start an application and something will come up on the screen and say, actually, you've used all your licenses. You can't go any further until you do something else. What do we do about that? Because now our software is sitting somewhere else.
So all of that is a part of the service. We take all of that away from you. You don't have to worry about licensing anymore. And you're absolutely right. Not only is counting the number of users that you have using the licenses one part of the problem, but keeping the software updated is probably a bigger problem that many people don't necessarily neglect deliberately, but certainly neglect from a vendor's recommended perspective. And all of those things would just be taken care of for you. So we would record and report on the number of licenses that you're using. We would charge you accordingly, and it is a utility kind of model. It's a pay-as-you-go model. And what the cloud allows you to do is to have that kind of accuracy and understanding of exactly what is being used in the organisation, who's using it, when are they using it, how often are they using it. All of that now we can give much better information. We get much better visibility on.
It's the flexibility in your systems. Say I've developed a piece of software for my particular business, a bit of proprietary software, and I'm using that piece of software on an ongoing basis. Maybe not microprocessor labour intensive. It's not video encoding. It's not doing all those CAD CAM kind of stuff. But what it is, it's essential to my business to operate. Can that reside on your server? Do you give an environment where I can go, look, there's this piece of software, we've written it, it's essential to my business, what do we do with it?
Most definitely. In much the same way as we talked about Adobe, as you use earlier, we would provide a platform, or a platform as a service, it's very creatively named, where we can, within certain restrictions, we can put your application and we can run it remotely from our data centre. Clearly there are some things that, if it's a very old piece of software that's
what are you
written,
trying to say?
well, and it runs on a very old operating system, we might struggle with that. But generally the cloud allows you to have that degree of flexibility, that you can provide anything remotely in theory. As we've talked about, there are some restrictions on high data usage or high performance applications, but there should be no limits to what you can provide for it.
Am I making a bit of a meal out of the fact it's a remote server? Should I just be considering the fact that when I'm using it, to all intents and purposes, it's here?
Our intention is that, and the intention of the cloud is that you can access your standard applications on any device, in any location, at any time, and have the same experience with that application. So when you're using your email here, or when you're using it on holiday, the other side of the world, at whatever time of day, you get the same feel about that experience of using that application. Regardless of the device that you're using, if you're using it on a tablet, you get the same presentation of the data as if you're looking at it on a laptop screen. Obviously, there's functional differences between what you can do with a small handheld device and a tablet against a laptop. But within those restrictions, within those limitations of the device itself, your experience of using the application should be the same. In much the same way as it is with what we take for granted as everyday applications now. The mail application on your smartphone, for example, is just a presentation of your email that you see a different presentation of when you're using your laptop device.
So really, what we're talking about is, to all intents and purposes, you've got the power of that server sitting on your desktop.
Absolutely.
And
right.
everything that you need is there. One question that we have got that's just come in here is when it comes to maintaining your software, if it is on your server, do I have access to it? I mean, does somebody within my organisation, if I've gone down the route with you, do I have a bigger form of access to my server information for maintenance and things like that, or do I leave that to you?
So if it's standard applications, if it's the Microsoft suite of email and Word and Excel, then we would make sure that all of the updates and the patches were applied to that in line with the manufacturer recommendations. If it's your own application, then clearly we would give you the appropriate level of access so that you could come in and maintain that.
There, then.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. And you can get in there remotely. I mean, you wouldn't want to physically have to go into the data center every time.
No.
But you'd remotely be able to do that. Yeah.
I suppose the big worry about all of this is that if today I'm running on my own local server and I've got my infrastructure in my office, and if you are a small to medium scale business and you've set this up, and maybe it's grown over a period of time, you found yourself, you've developed this, it's grown, you start off with a couple of PCs, next thing you know there are 10 PCs and are all sitting on their network. Is it a one-way street? If I come to you and I go, we want to go down the route now of having a server on your system, we want to use the software via your server, we want you to look after licenses. If maybe a year or so down the line I think to myself, actually I quite like to have my own server, am I well and truly scuppered?
Not at all, no. What we're trying to provide, or what the cloud gives us the opportunity to provide, is utility services. I mean, the email is something that we all take very much for granted and we all use every day. I mean, in most of our lives, we use email. And we want it there, we want it on demand. It's like switching a light on and you expect the light to come on, you expect the electricity to be there. And for utility type requirements, like email, like word processing, like spreadsheets, the cloud is perfect for that. Why would you ever want to take that back and take the responsibility of managing and building the environment on which to run those applications when you can buy it as a utility and you can pay for it as you use it? If you want to bring in other IT requirements into your business, if you've got other things, your business is growing and you've got new requirements with specific applications that need local compute power, that would work perfectly well integrated with a cloud provision of utility services like those that we've just covered.
And what if we've got somebody that's got huge amounts of data and they want some form or some way to back it up? I mean, as I was, we were talking about 20 terabits with us, or thereabouts. A bit more than that actually, but if you're someone that's collected data over a period of time and you want a secure backup, is there anything that you can help us with, or is it just really just that kind of data capacity is just not catered for?
No, absolutely the contrary. The cloud is perfect for giving you a whole new world of choice as to how you back up and how you provide resilience in that data. The question really is, how important is it to you that you can access that data at any time, in any place, and on any device? And the cloud will give you a whole host of options as to how quickly you can get at the data, how easily it is to access various points in the data. There are so many different options now, and again, this is a part of what the cloud brings. It gives you choice.
What kind of reaction do you get from the customers when you go along and you talk to them? I mean, first of all, what's the big no-no when you're talking to customers, and what's the big light bulb moment for them, do you think?
No, I'll come back to in a moment. I think that the light bulb part is really just the accessibility of big company, sophisticated compute power with resilience, with security, with all of the benefits that the big company gets from investing millions in its compute systems are now available on a utility-based pricing model with the same level of all of those features that the big company gets, but at a very affordable scale for a smaller business, for a very small scale organisation, from an individual up to, I don't know, 200-300 users. You can buy that kind of slice. I suppose the big questions I get regularly are, what happens if my internet connection goes down? As you've said, what happens if somebody hacks?
Does it all stop?
Well,
I'm afraid, but not in today. We can't do any business.
So of course,
software upgrade.
Resilience is really important, and we build into the cloud gives you the opportunity to build into these services a level of resilience that you would never be able to justify as a small business, because it would just cost you too much to have that level of duplication of data and duplication of sites. So we, for example, would have our cloud customers have their data stored in 2 locations at opposite ends of the country. If the network goes down at one end of the country, there's a backup route that allows us to go around the other way. The fact is that internet connections don't go down like they used to. And I know there's going to be people watching this thinking, well, mine's gone down very recently.
Yeah.
But
I've been off the air for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Well, what happens? I remember actually at home for 3 weeks with a well-known internet service provider, BT. Did I say that out loud? I only thought it there. And down for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The engineer turned up, fixed it for a day, then went down again. And it was a piece of hardware at the exchange. You're nobbled, aren't you?
Under those circumstances where you've got that level of granularity in the way that your connection is made.
However, I can get in with my 4G phone, can't I?
You can get in with other methods, but what we would do, we would provide a connection into our network which gives a level of resilience that would avoid that problem happening to you again.
So you've thought it through, haven't you?
These things are, there is always a level that you can go to next to provide that extra level of resilience that as a small business you may not be able to justify, but buying a part of a cloud delivered service allows you to access all of those extra features.
I don't know what you think, but as far as I'm sitting here at the moment, it just sounds like the most ideal way. Obviously, there are other organisations and other companies that will provide a cloud service to you. But if you start thinking about it, the benefits to you as a small SME, and there you are, all your data now is actually sitting somewhere where it's going to be secure. It isn't going to disappear on you. It's got backup all the time. And you know what they said? You remember in the old manuals, you used to read the manual, it would say, in the event of your software disappearing or whatever, don't forget, just go to your safe and get your backup. And then some of the manuals would read, in brackets, you remember the backup, the one you made last week, and close brackets. And how often have we relied on maybe a single source of backup, and then when we've gone to it, it's either been corrupt, or in our particular case, we back up onto hard drives, 4 terabit hard drives. You can imagine the amount of data that is sitting on a 4 terabit hard drive, which is a motor with a disk that spins at 72,000 RPM. There's just so much there to go wrong, isn't there? And if it does go wrong, what do you do then? It becomes a very expensive exercise to retrieve that data. Here, you've got remote servers that are sitting at either end of the country. And if one goes down, there's going to be another one there. And I would imagine that they're migrating data around different servers all the time.
Constantly, yeah. I mean, it's a feature that a large company would have been used to for a long time, that its data is made resilient by the way that it's managed and the way that it's stored. A cloud-delivered service gives you that level of resilience inherently, just in the way that the data is stored. And there are different levels. There are different cloud services, some of which you can buy just the tin. Effectively, you're renting space on somebody else's tin, in which case all of that resilience is still your responsibility. And then you go all the way through to the other end of the scale on a cloud-delivered service, where that resilience is a part of the service.
And this is really what differentiates your service, isn't it, from other services? I mean, you do hear, as I said, there are adverts on the radio where people are actually sort of saying, no, you don't have to worry about your IT infrastructure, don't need an IT person anymore, use our service, your programs are there, the licenses are sorted out, and it's sitting on a server. I suppose the next question to ask is, well, that's all very well, but am I just on a server, or am I on numerous servers? And if 2 of your servers go down, what happens then? I know you can keep going on, but you know, we live in a world where information is king, isn't it?
Yep.
And to lose the information, when we had Mike in from Osborne as well, Mike was talking to us from Mike Osborne from Phoenix.
Yeah.
When he was in, he was talking about business continuity
Yep.
and disaster recovery. And what he was saying there is that what constitutes the fact that you're going to be moving out of your premises. Dare I say this, you two, your two businesses, seem very similar in what they're trying to achieve for the client.
Well,
maybe yours is more technically, it's more about remote access to data that is going to be consistently there.
I think actually that I'm going to say this, but they're highly complementary, the two businesses. We will provide a degree of resilience in what we're doing in the services that we're delivering, but there are many circumstances where organisations want a higher level of resiliency than that would naturally offer. If you're in a regulated industry, for example, if you're in financial services, that kind of area, there's no question that in order to comply with the regulations, you have to be able to produce documents that show that you have a level of resiliency and disaster recovery planning that Mike's business offers in a much broader way than we would with a standard cloud delivered service.
I'm not certain. Is that? I'm not certain whether that's another pitch or not. Actually, it might have been a pitch. I'm not quite certain, but you've got to buy both of them.
Well, ideally, yes, of course.
Okay. Listen, we're going to come back in just a few moments' time. Hope you're enjoying the programme tonight. Business Connections Live. Steve Highland with you. My guest this evening is Tim Bodill from Phoenix IT. We're looking at the whole world of cloud. If you've heard it being bandied around, maybe when you go to business networking events, it's, oh yeah, we're all up in the cloud now, thank you very much. If you've heard all of that, you think, I don't know what the cloud's all about. Well, now you've got a kind of an insight into it. And do you know what? The other thing that's really good about this, you've got all that processing power sitting remotely away from you that you've got access to on maybe just an ordinary laptop. And as long as it's, you know, it's your emails and it's your word processing, it's your storage of all your files, your customer information, your big database, it's all going to be sitting remotely to you. So, I mean, could it be something that you should be considering for your business? Maybe you're just about to grow and you've got to the stage where you're thinking, yes, actually a server would actually be worth having within my business. I was at a friend's business the other week, and he very proudly showed off his server rack to me. Oh, here we go. Oh, very nice. Loads of MIPS going on in there, loads of meaningless indications of processor speed. And he was showing this off, and it was nearly a badge of honour that he had such a powerful server sitting there. But if anything should happen to his building, if anything should happen to that rack, his business is finished, and there is no way back from that to recovery once again. While we're talking about the world of technology, let's just cast our minds back, because there's one place that your customers are going to go when they want to find out about you. And I've been looking here at the CloudSure UK website. Can we just have a quick gander at that, if that's all right? And you can just see here are the services that they offer. Different operating systems. It can either be probably Windows, Linux and stuff like that as well.
Indeed,
all
yep.
available. A directory service, the file and print service, all there, web service database, and also mail services. But you can see all the different offerings that they've got there. 30-day license model, true cloud capability with active design, ability to burst out to private and public cloud as well. We'll find out what that means in just a moment. Lower cost footprint per VM port GB. What's that mean?
That's just a
talking jargon.
It's a great bit of IT jargon that we perhaps shouldn't really have on the website.
What's it mean though?
Well, it simply means that
is that virtual memory and unlimited gigabytes?
No, it just means that for every server that you need to use, you're going to pay less for it, in very simple terms.
I like that, pay less for it. But it's interesting, there's a website, and that's obviously part of Phoenix's marketing capability, what they're doing to sell their product. And one of the most important things that you need to consider for your business as part of your marketing campaign is your own personal website. We had Paul Imrie on the air, on the programme a couple of months back, in fact, and he came out with some fantastic words of wisdom when it comes to setting up your website. Now, I thought he was going to come in on the programme and he was going to show us how to use WordPress. It was far from that. I don't think we even touched the programmes. What he was saying was what you need to consider, first of all, when it comes to setting up your website, is how it's going to work within your marketing mix. It was a great show. If you haven't watched it all, here's an opportunity to get a bit of a taster for Paul Imrie on Business Connections Live. we've got all the information that you need when it comes to creating, developing and talking to the right people about perhaps maybe the most important marketing tool that you have, your website.
Predominantly web design, but our customers ask us to do other things. They ask us to help us with sometimes search engine optimization or PR activities or copywriting. So we're quite flexible and try and work with our customers to achieve the best results for them. So you want to make money. So how do you make money? Well, you have to sell product. How do you sell product? You have to communicate. Okay? So at the end of the day, this is all about communication. And to communicate, you need a marketing plan. And as part of that marketing plan, you have a website. It might be the biggest component of that marketing plan, or it might not. It really depends on your business. Yeah? If you're a taxi company, is the website the biggest thing? Or is it clean cars? Yeah, all these things are marketing. So the point of entry, you will see that there are big buttons that clearly address each market area.
All right.
So you can see at the top end of the market, they've got
Here it comes. Right, yes.
the contractor screed. So the name says what it does on the tin. They're working on big contracts, big buildings, big sites. And then you've got the builders who are mid-market. They get the same level of service as the big guys, but without the hassle. And then finally, you've got the home market, the domestic market. And there you will see an image with nice feet. And we're not into the hard hats. It's all about how nice your home's going to be. It's a dream. But the main focus here is making it an easy experience. So you've worked hard to get someone to come to your website. Hopefully they've bought into your messages. So why would you let them down by making it difficult to contact them? So here on this particular site, we're using a very simple device. It's called a Call Me Back button. Yes, you provide the stories and the content, but you do need people like us to help and guide you to make it an effective website. And at the end of the day, the best business comes from referrals. So, you know, if you have one good customer on your list and they refer you to 10, they're actually doing the business for you, aren't you? First thing is, don't panic. Okay? So, if you are in a mode of panic and your thinking is not clear, the website will reflect that. So you'll have a panicky website with mumbo jumbo and jumble. So number one, get your head into the right place. Think about your business. You know your business. You're driving your business. You know where you need to go. You know what products you need to achieve. Again, CSE screening, they thought about the segmentation of their market. They knew that if they went to certain sectors of the market, they had to deliver in a certain way. Okay, so that is a business driver, business imperative. Have those things clear in your head, then you're ready to start building a website.
Paul Imrie there, words of wisdom from him, a fascinating bloke, and really did know his onions. Interesting to see the old logo coming up on the screen saying Business Connections Live at 7 o'clock. Incidentally, if you think to yourself, you know, this is a really interesting program, didn't understand about cloud computing or anything like that, and you're thinking, yeah, here I am, I'm transfixed, I can't pull myself away from my PC, my laptop, my iPad, my iPhone, or whatever you're watching this on, if you're watching it on iTunes, or if you're watching it on Daily Motion, or as we soon will be on Roku, which is, we're really looking forward to getting that up and running. That's going to really open up the audience for this. If you are watching on YouTube, incidentally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There should be just a little red marker just sitting just around about here. It changes depending on how big you've got the screen, but just press on that button and you can then subscribe. Go to the website as well. We're going to be coming up, here it is on the screen, www.businessconnectionslive.com. Go to the site. Do sign up. There's like subscription and there's signing up too. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, but you can sign up, and we've got some information that we're giving away. And what we're also doing as well, for that matter, if you do sign up to the program, you're going to get notifications when new programs come out. We're asking a lot of our guests now to put together an information pack on their individual businesses, and if you want to get hold of that too, all you got to do is sign up and we send that to you automatically. But also, if you sign up, we're giving some of these away, because on Friday the 19th of September we're going to be going off to the business networking show up at Wolverhampton Racecourse. We're going to be broadcasting live, fingers crossed, for the entire day, and there's all sorts of different people are going to be there. We've got a number of these tickets. We're going to give them away, so sign up to the website, and who knows, we could be sending you one of those. £20 the value of the ticket. The business networking show. It's going to be a fantastic event. You'll see here on the old laptop, it's the UK's largest networking event, Wolverhampton Racecourse, Friday the 19th of September. And some of the guest speakers that are going to be there, we've got BBC's The Apprentice runner-up, Neil Clough. He's going to be speaking. Stefan, who's been on the programme in the past, he's the author of Business Networking for Dummies. That's Stefan Thomas. He's going to be at the event as well. He's going to be giving a presentation. He was on the show. Do watch that one. It's great if you're in the networking. Also there, Dee Blick. She's going to be on the programme in a couple of weeks' time. And our old buddy Brad Burton, the #1 motivational speaker in the UK. If you have a sales force and you're looking for someone that's just a little bit different, someone that's really going to give you the real edge to your sales force, going to make them understand what their customers are thinking, then Brad Burton's the fella to get to come in and to talk to them. He will motivate them. He will redirect them. He's got this lovely line that, you know, think of the worst things that have happened in business and the best things that have happened in business. And we all, on a daily basis in business, we walk the line between the two of them, sometimes oscillating a little bit, but you know how it is. That's what it's all about. He explains that. He's very motivational and very good. And finally, the final ad, I suppose, for the moment, if you're thinking that this is completely engaging and you'd like to have a programme just like this for your business, then we can do that for you as well. Simply pick up the phone, give us a call or email us to Linda or myself. It's studio@businessconnectionslive.com, and we can put together maybe a 5-10 minute programme specifically for your business, about your business. A program like this, it can be as in-depth as you want it to be. We'll use all the same resources that we use here, and we will brand it specifically for your audience. So that means instead of sending out a boring newsletter, what you can now send out is you to your clients, to your potential clients or to your customers, and they can sit and listen to what you say. You can do the sell directly to them. It's a great opportunity. If you want more details on that, just contact myself or Linda Bazan. The telephone number, if you want to ring us, is 01784 256 777, or if you want to email us, once again, let's see if we can get that email address up. There it is, studio@businessconnectionslive.com. My guest this evening is Tim Bodill from Phoenix IT. We've been talking about the cloud. If you find it a difficult concept for you to really understand the benefits of the cloud, I think by now you're probably getting a real insight into it. All those day-to-day pieces of technology that you need for your business to make it run smoother, to make it more effective, to give you the flexibility so you're not stuck at your office, because now you're going to have the power of your office at home, on holiday, on location, in a hotel. Your office is with you 24/7. Maybe that's a bad thing, I don't know. But your office is with you all the time, and that's what cloud computing can do to you. You've then got the reliability of a server that is constantly backed up. You're not going to lose your data. Imagine what would happen in your business if you were to lose your customer data. Imagine what would happen if you couldn't pick up your emails. Your system goes down, your server goes down in your own office. You don't have to worry about it anymore. If it came to the worst, you could pick it up on your mobile phone, on your smartphone. Pick your emails up. You could run your business from your mobile phone with all the power of the computing all behind it. It is, when you think of it and you look at that kind of flexibility like that, you do start to realise the real advantages and the benefits to it, can't you?
I think, so my experience of talking to small to medium business owners is their expectation of unreliability from IT.
It's the fear, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but they put up with a lot from IT because the view is that that's just how it is and service isn't great. And you talked about a possibility of your own server going down for 3 weeks. Well, I was with a genuine client who doesn't have IT skills, particularly internally, very recently, who told me a story of an email server of theirs being down for 3 weeks. Now, they rely on email as a way of getting business, but they thought that was just, it wasn't okay, but that was what IT is like. And when I explained to them that we offer services where if your server isn't available for 4 hours, then we start paying you money. We're so confident that it will be available. They were quite shocked that that's possible now. But I think the problem is that many people there is a fear, as you say, there's a fear that it's not reliable, there's a fear that it's going to cost a lot of money, and the fact is that these days that needn't be the case. It can be extremely reliable and should be extremely reliable, and it shouldn't cost you the earth to get that quality of reliability and resilience and compute power.
Do you think there's a tipping point anywhere that comes along in as a business grows, in the scale of a business?
There are some tipping points that are kind of forced on us by the technology. So above a certain scale, that we start to ask the question as to whether you want a public cloud. You read one of our bullet points of our website earlier. And what we've talked largely about this evening are public cloud services, where you're taking a share of a service that's available to everybody. And there is a point at which it becomes more sensible to look at having either what we call a private cloud, which is where we deliver services out of our data center just for you, just for your business, or the other model, the one that you kind of alluded to earlier, where you want some bits on your site and some bits on our site, which we call a hybrid cloud. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can always rely on us to have some jargon associated with it.
We've seen that from the website.
Yeah,
you've actually mentioned all that. When we were watching that small piece from Paul Imrie, we talked about the low-cost footprint for VM Port GB.
Thank you.
I love that. I think that is just a fantastic piece of... But what it's saying there, of course, is saying that as your business grows, it's not going to cost you a fortune for the service that you provide to grow with it.
No, indeed. And one of the features of the cloud delivery model is that we can flex up and down as your business flex up and down. So if you have a seasonal business, for example, you may be in a retail environment where you've got more users over the Christmas and the Easter periods where it's busier for you, then we can provide additional licenses on a temporary basis so that you're not having to always provide an IT system that copes with your largest requirement, which is what's happened historically. And businesses have had to build in scope for that growth, whether they actually see it and realise it or not. With a cloud delivery model, you can pay as you go, quite literally.
Are you a one-person business, a solopreneur? Are you a 10-person business, a 20-person business, or a 50-person business? Where does it start to become cost effective to have your service?
Well, I think below a certain level it becomes more and more difficult. But really the number of users is a very unreliable measure of what makes a good customer for us, because it's really what you want to do with the technology that makes a much more reliable view as to whether or not we can provide the right kind of service for you. Some customers that we have with 19 users spend an awful lot of money with us. Other customers with far more users spend less per user with us. So it really depends on what you're actually going to do with the technology and what you want out of your compute power. If you want standard application delivery, if you are looking for standard email services, standard Office, word processing and spreadsheet kind of services, then it really doesn't matter what size you are. A cloud delivery model will almost certainly be better for you than trying to do it yourself.
It does sound like a bit of a no-brainer. Okay, so tomorrow then I'm sitting home, and as we said, there are other businesses that provide a similar service to CloudSure UK or to Phoenix IT. But we don't like mentioning them, quite frankly. But the thing, I suppose, if tomorrow I was to turn around and I was to say, OK, this sounds like a really good idea. I've got a couple of laptops around the office, thinking about getting a server. I was also thinking about employing an IT person to come in. Now what I can do, how long does it take for me to go from having a traditional local area network kind of thing and moving it all over to you? What would be the amount of time when it comes to planning to do that?
Okay, so another big benefit, thank you very much for leading me into another big benefit of the cloud, is the speed in which we can provision a new service for somebody. Historically, as we all know, if you want to put a new server in, if you want to install a new email environment, it can have taken weeks to get that working. Now, with a cloud service, we can provision a new service for a client literally within a matter of hours, but realistically within a matter of days, we could have you up and running.
And if I've got data, so we say I've got all my old emails there, is there a way of transporting them to you? Do you make that easy? Are there applications to do it?
Hence the reason, well, when I said a matter of hours and I could hear all of my technical staff screaming at me, I quickly adjusted that.
Because we've got them all locked in a cupboard out here, you know that, don't you? Yeah.
Quickly adjusted that to a matter of days, because of course every user's requirements, every business requirement is different. And somebody may come to us and say, you know, I just want something new setting up from scratch. And equally, as per your example, somebody might come to us and say, well, I've got 40 terabytes worth of data here that I need you to migrate onto my new service, which is going to take us a bit more time to achieve.
But it can be done.
Oh, it can be done, most definitely.
And
but
I take it, would you advise them on the process to do it and to make it as smooth as
every
possible?
time, yeah. And what we aim to do is to keep the engagement as light touch as possible, as minimal as possible, in recognition of the fact that most of our customers have got businesses to run, and those businesses are very often nothing to do with IT, and we try to show the utmost respect to that and deliver IT as another utility, as a commodity service, as we've talked about before.
Probably one of the most important things out of that is that many of your customers will have no inkling when it comes to IT, and you're providing the service. You are replacing an IT professional, I suppose.
For too long, there has been an expectation that organisations have to have their own IT skills internally, and it's a bit of a mystery, it's a bit of a black art, and so we've relied very heavily on IT managers and IT staff to keep our businesses going. If it's not what you do in your business, then why should you have to employ people that look after those things for you? You certainly wouldn't be employing people to provide water and to provide electricity, and it's really not that different in terms of what it is.
Absolutely fascinating. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. It's been a fascinating insight into the world off the clouds. If you've been thinking about doing it in the past, well, maybe we've convinced you this evening that it should be something you should be at least considering. Maybe not now, but maybe in the future for your business. If you want all the details concerning what Phoenix can do for you and what CloudSure can do for you, then you can check out the links that are below this particular programme, both on YouTube and also on our website at businessconnectionslive.com. There it is, the website as always. As if by magic, it always comes up when I mention it. Been a really interesting night. Don't forget, check out the LinkedIn programme that we did last week with Steve Mills, Paul Imrie, his words of wisdom when it came to setting up your website. But before we finish tonight's programme, can I just remind you, there are two things I need to remind you of. One, don't forget to subscribe, or at least register, either on the website or on YouTube or on Daily Motion. Let us know that you're out there, because that way we can get information to you. Do that. Make certain you put it in your diary that you're going to be going along to Wolverhampton Racecourse on Friday the 19th of September. Kicks off at 8:30 for the Business Networking Show 2014, the UK's largest networking event. And we look forward to being there. We're going to be, as I said, broadcasting there all day. And we look forward to meeting you in person even. And finally, Tim, we always ask all our guests to look down. It's normally number 3. We've changed it this week. You're looking down this one here. It's got no number under it, but it's looking at you. And what we ask is to really to give a bit of a summary. And what we try to do on the program, obviously, is this hasn't been about selling Phoenix IT and CloudSure. However, I think there's always a point within the conversation where you've got to talk about the elephant in the room. As a customer coming to you, just remind us of the key things we should remember, why we should be coming to you, and what the key things are to remember when it comes to cloud computing and why it will help my business. Straight down that one. The world is yours. Take it away.
Thanks very much, Steve. Thank you for listening. As we've already talked about, we recognise that most of our customers, most of our small to medium customers in particular, have for a long time had to bring in specialist skills to look after their IT systems. And really what I've tried to get across tonight is that technology has moved on to such an extent that we can now provide most of your day-to-day compute requirements from a remote location, and our service is a UK-based service. Our 2 key data centres are in Farnborough and in Leeds, and all of the services that we deliver will be delivered from those data centres. So particularly if you're in a regulated industry and you need to know where your data is and you want to go and be able to look and touch it at the locations where the data is, then we can provide that service. But I guess the underlying message really from me is that you don't any longer have to be the slave of an IT manager or an IT service provider that really doesn't understand your business and doesn't make an effort to do that. All we want to do is to keep the boring bits going for you, and it's not the most exciting message to deliver, but actually what's important is that we do it well, and you know that when you go to switch on your email, it's going to be there. When you want to use your word processor or your spreadsheet or your own line of business application, it will be there, and that's what we endeavour to do.
And there it is. Thank you very much
Thank you.
indeed. Fascinating insight. Hope you've enjoyed what you've seen this evening. There's a lot of probably IT managers that are out there at the moment and they're thinking to themselves, don't like that bloke. Not very much anyhow. But if you are thinking about upgrading your system, as we said, there are other companies out there that are doing that. I mean, if you want to start off at the very basics of it, you've got Microsoft that are providing it with, as we said at the very beginning, Windows 365. A lot of the manufacturers or the software developers, Adobe, in fact, actually are now going down the route of you never own the program. You don't actually buy it anymore. You just buy an ongoing license. However, in that particular case, the program is residing on your PC and you are looking at a licensing arrangement. What we're talking about here is that really you've got a dumb screen and keyboard that you're sitting in front of and all the computing power is somewhere else that has been permanently backed up by people that you don't even need to talk to. It just does it on its own. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
It's been a fascinating insight. I hope it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. From me, Steve Holland, and all the team, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight. We're back again next week. I've got a little note here that tells me who's going to be on the show. Our guest on next week's programme is Mark Hughes. He's going to be talking about Facebook. Why do I care to share? That's what we're going to be talking about. Why should I care to share on Facebook? If you saw the previous programme that Mark did for us, once again, over 800 views, I think, on his Facebook page. It's probably going to be very similar information. Once again, well worth watching. So make certain you do watch it when it's on live next week at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. But from me, Steve Holland, and from Tim, thank you very much indeed. Have yourselves a great week. And from all the team, bye for now. Bye-bye. See you next week. Bye-bye.